Folks, we all know it. In 2025, a storm's a-coming. And its name is Epic Universe. Universal Orlando's brand new theme park, which undoubtedly, folks, will shake up the Orlando theme park market. And when it comes to Walt Disney World, this presents a clear and obvious challenge for 2025. You might expect that challenge to be, well, compete with Epic Universe. But here's the thing, folks. Of course, Epic Universe is a brand new theme park. It's the first major new theme park we've received from Universal, Disney, or any comparable theme park chain here in North America in over 2 decades. Of course, people are going to go to Epic Universe no matter what Disney does. There is nothing they could do to dissuade people from visiting Epic Universe in 2025. It's going to be the hot ticket of the year, no doubt about it. So the clear challenge for Disney is not competing with the brand new theme park. It's competing with the existing Orlando theme parks to win over guests for the rest of their vacation on an Orlando theme park trip, which of course is going to ultimately revolve around Epic Universe. Now, it is believed and understandably should be expected that Epic Universe will result in a boost in Orlando tourism. There'll be more visitors to go around for all of these theme parks in the market. But the average guest only has so many days to spend, so sure, we could argue that Epic Universe will be a rising tide that raises all ships, but let's be honest, your average guest doesn't have enough days to do every single one of the parks. I mean, even just looking between Disney and Universal, there will be 7 theme parks among them. Forget about SeaWorld, Busch Gardens, and Legoland, and any of the other smaller players in the area. The average guest is likely not even going to have enough time to do all the Disney and Universal parks on a single trip. So even if it is true that the opening of Epic Universe will result in attendance growth for a number of Orlando theme parks that are already existing, the problem is the tide ain't big enough for all of them. So the question is, which ones are going to get lifted up and which ones are going to be left behind? Now, lucky for Disney, history favors the competitor in these situations. If we look back on when Islands of Adventure and Animal Kingdom opened to the public in the late 90s, what we'll see is that it wasn't the competitor that was seeing big losses in attendance when those parks opened. It was the parks within their own chain that were losing out attendance. Of course, the existing Disney World parks lost attendance when Animal Kingdom opened, and Universal Studios Florida was affected when Islands of Adventure opened, whereas the competitors weren't necessarily impacted the same way. However, unfortunately for Disney, Universal is not blind to this fact. They know that historically speaking, it's their own parks that get cannibalized when a brand new theme park comes out. That's just the name of the game. But Universal has a game plan in place that will help to prevent that, at least as much as possible. And it's a pretty straightforward one. Be competitive on price. You might not expect it, but Universal, with a brand new theme park coming out, you would maybe assume that they would go ahead and jack up prices because, hey, you got a brand new theme park, let's go ahead and rake in the cash. We know people are going to show up to Epic Universe. You know people are going to pay whatever to get in, so let's go ahead and jack up the prices like crazy. And that may be the strategy they end up going with for single day and 2-day tickets going to Epic Universe and Universal Orlando as a whole. But we already know, because they've already released these tickets, we know for multi-day tickets, for 3-day, 4-day, 5-day plus tickets, we know that Universal has barely raised the prices on those tickets versus what they're already charging guests, despite the fact they have a brand new theme park being added to the mix. So clearly, Universal's strategy is not to make as much money as possible on Epic Universe ticket sales, right? I mean, that might be the straightforward way of attacking this. When you have a brand new theme park, you want to monetize it as much as possible, but Universal's strategy is actually somewhat them playing defense in a sense, as they are going to go ahead and price multi-day tickets extremely competitively and extremely low compared to what Disney's going to offer for multi-day tickets. And as a result, is going to really entice guests to say, hey, well, you're already doing a day or two at Epic Universe. Why not spend the rest of your trip at Universal? You'll save a whole bunch more money versus going over to Disney. And if you stay on property, we'll even offer you a few extra $100 off for doing a vacation package. Not to mention, of course, that by staying on property, you also get the added perk of getting early park admission, not only to the existing Universal parks, but also to Epic Universe, which is a big deal for a lot of people. So basically, Universal is willing to lose money from certain guests who would be willing to pay more to spend their entire trip at Universal or spend more money to go to Epic Universe. They're willing to lose money there in order to entice more guests to spend their entire trip at Universal and stay there. That way, Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios Florida do not get left behind, as history would tell us would normally happen. So given this strategy from Universal, the ball is in Disney's court. And I don't think they were really ready to receive the ball. I think they really thought that Universal was going to play offense. They were going to fully push and embrace Epic Universe as their sole product, more or less, and leave the other parks in the dust. But instead, Universal has said, you know what, we're willing to sacrifice some business at Epic Universe in order to keep those parks afloat. And it really puts Disney in a tricky predicament, because now Disney really has to come up with something persuasive to offer guests in order to convince them to stay at Disney on an Epic Universe theme park trip instead of spending their entire vacation at Universal, when Disney can't compete on price, convenience, or perks. And yes, we do know that Disney's not even going to attempt to compete on those fronts. I mean, price-wise, literally like a week before I'm recording this, Disney just raised prices for annual pass holders for 2025. Like, they do not care, right? They do not think that they have to compete on price. They will gladly continue to raise prices. They do not care. And the only perk they're really adding to the table in 2025 is the fact that hotel guests on their check-in day get a free ticket to go to Typhoon Lagoon or Blizzard Beach, whatever water park of theirs is open at the time. And I mean, that might sound like a pretty nice incentive, but the bottom line is this. Typhoon Lagoon had under 2 million annual visitors in 2023. That is a drop in the bucket of the Orlando theme park market attendance. Nonetheless, Walt Disney World's attendance, it's also a pretty small piece of the puzzle for Walt Disney World. So statistically speaking, even with Disney offering free tickets to go to this park, I think that the vast majority of hotel guests will not even choose to use it. So again, it sounds like a nice perk, but the vast majority of visitors have no interest in using it. So yeah, to reiterate, Disney is not competing on price or perks, absolutely not, and they're going to need to come up with different strategy in order to beat Universal here. And Disney is well aware of this. They have a strong game plan in order to compete with Universal using a secret ace up their sleeve that the existing Universal parks are not only incapable of competing with, but they simply are choosing not to compete with it, and that is with new attractions. Obviously, Universal Orlando is going to have a lot of new attractions with Epic Universe, but neither Universal Studios Florida or Islands of Adventure is getting anything new in 2025, which is where Disney can go ahead and outbeat them and be like, hey, yes, we're going to cost a little bit more money to visit than the existing Universal theme parks, but we're going to offer you a whole bunch of new attractions that clearly the existing Universal parks are not giving you. The first of these is a return of the nighttime parade at Magic Kingdom. That's a pretty big deal, gives people more to do at that park, and it's something that a lot of people have been asking for a long time, so hey, that's a nice addition. Also coming in 2025 is the Zootopia 3D show over in Animal Kingdom in the Tree of Life, replacing its Tough to Beat bug. Only problem with this, well, there's a couple problems, but one problem is the fact that its Tough to Beat bug has not announced a closing date yet, right? So we do not know when that's going to close, and as a result, we have no idea when Zootopia is going to open. It probably will not be until the latter half of 2025 at this point, given the fact that they've already announced when certain parts of Dinoland USA are closing in the beginning of 2025, and its Tough to Beat bug was not included in those announced closures. Also reopening in 2025 will be the newly imagined and refurbished Test Track 3.0. So hey, that's something. I guess it's technically a new attraction, even though it's just sort of a reskin, a repaint of an existing attraction. But hey, sure, you can go ahead and market that as an incentive to go visit Epcot. There you go. And even just in the last few months, Disney's gone ahead and added a few more attractions to the pile of 2025 openings that they have lined up. One of those being The Voyage of the Little Mermaid, a show over at Hollywood Studios, which is returning after being closed for, well, at that point, it will be about 5 or 6 years since it's been closed. So that's nice, though the show was supposed to reopen this year, and they went ahead and delayed it very last minute, right? They said it was going to open in the fall of 2024, only for fall to more or less come and go, and then they announced, oh, actually, it's opening 2025. So that's funny. What, did you do no work on it? I don't know. But okay, it's 2025 attraction now. Great. Awesome. And also coming to Hollywood Studios is another show, a Villains live-action stage show, which will be replacing Lightning McQueen's whatever that terrible show was that nobody ever went to go see. So hey, okay, that's another big plus for Hollywood Studios as well. And when we look at this lineup, it's nice that there's a lot of stuff opening in 2025 at Disney World. That's great. It's also great that every single park is being touched upon. That's also very cool. But let me ask you this. Do you think that any of these additions are mountain movers? Are they money makers? Are any of these going to really persuade anybody? to go ahead and spend hundreds to maybe even thousands more on their trip to go to Disney instead of going and spending their entire trip at Universal just to experience these attractions? Honestly, I just don't see how they could. I mean, listen, like I said, I think these are all net positive for Disney World. I think they will ultimately improve the guest experience, especially the 2 shows coming to Hollywood Studios. I mean, that park's capacity is in the absolute dirt. The lines are ridiculous. Adding 2 shows to that lineup that people actually go to will do a lot to not only get people out of the rest of the park, right? They'll be big people eaters, but they will also improve the capacity of the park as a whole, and as a result will lower lines across the park. So I'm sure the people who do visit Hollywood Studios in 2025, they're going to have a much better time than you would, say, today, but it's not going to incentivize anybody to really visit the park just to go see these 2 shows, especially one that was already there 5 or 6 years ago. And let's be honest, folks, I don't think there are going to be a lot of people who are going to be like, oh man, I have to go to Magic Kingdom in 2025 because I got a new parade. Like, no, maybe the Disney diehards are going to say that, but certainly not a lot of the average tourists who are coming, again, mainly for Epic Universe. They're not going to be like, man, I really have to go to Magic Kingdom because they have a parade. No, that's not going to persuade anybody to go to Magic Kingdom. Test track reopening, not going to make a big deal to anybody, especially when it's only been closed for a year. It's not like it's been gone for ages. It's been gone for a year. Big whoop. And also, the Zootopia show, it's a 3D show, okay? Nobody cares about 3D shows anymore, all right? It's the most outdated thing of all time. People who have no fanfare for it whatsoever. So that's not going to make any indent whatsoever for Animal Kingdom, especially considering that Animal Kingdom is also going to be facing a closure in 2025 at some point. It has not been announced yet, but Dinosaur will almost certainly be closing sometime in 2025, as it is slated to become Indiana Jones by 2027. So it has to close at some point in 2025. They're going to meet that deadline, which means that, yeah, not only is Animal Kingdom not going to look enticing from the perspective that Zootopia is not a great addition, and it's not going to look enticing from the fact that you now don't have one of your top tier attractions in Dinosaur available to you, which is crazy because Animal Kingdom has already been seeing a drastic drop in attendance just in the last 5 years. Back in 2019, this park had well over 13 million, almost 14 million annual visitors. Now they are under 9. And that's very simply because the park has not received anything new of major significance in a very long time. And the park has by far the least to do out of any theme park in the entire Orlando theme park market. There is so little to do, it is ridiculous. Unless you're planning to spend half of your day going to the zoo, it is not a worthwhile venture. It's a half-day park at best. And clearly, the general public realizes this. They recognize this. And the fact that you're going to see Dinosaur closing at some point in 2025, and not to mention that It's Tough to Be a Bug will be closed for a good portion of 2025 while it makes way for Zootopia. I cannot imagine that Animal Kingdom is going to be one of the winners in this scenario. I think there's no doubt about it. We talk about what parks are going to be included on that tide that presumably Epic Universe is raising. I think it's a guarantee that of any of the parks in the Orlando market, the one that is a guaranteed loser is Animal Kingdom. It's not even a question. That park is going to be absolutely decimated in 2025, and I wouldn't even be surprised with Dinosaur still closed in 2026 if perhaps this park is again a loser in 2026 and perhaps has back-to-back attendance losing years. I can't even imagine where the attendance on this park is going to go if the bleeding is really as bad as I think it might be. But Dinosaur and It's Tough to Be a Bug are not the only Disney World rides closing in 2025. You also have Big Thunder Mountain, which is going to be closed literally the entire year from start to finish. They are going to refurbish the ride and they're going to add a whole bunch of new effects to it, which is great. Don't get me wrong. I mean, the Disneyland version is vastly superior to the Magic Kingdom version. So if they can get it up to snuff with that, like that's a big win for Magic Kingdom. Do not get me wrong. But I do not understand the timing of this. How are you going to put one of your most iconic attractions in Big Thunder Mountain on the sideline when Universal's opening a brand new theme park? You know you have to compete in order to maintain your current business level. It's also bizarre because Disney knew at least halfway through 2023 that attendance was slowing, right? It was dropping in some places. Growth was not really strong. And we saw by the end of 2023 that Disney World's attendance overall remained relatively flat. That should have been an alarm bell to Disney right then and there. Hey, if you have this Big Thunder Mountain refurbishment on your mind, if it's on the docket, do it in 2024. Do it before Epic Universe opens. What are you waiting for? I do not understand why they wait until now, 2025. I guarantee you this refurbishment has been on the books for a long time. and instead they wait until 2025 to do it when they need Big Thunder Mountain operating so that people have more incentive to go visit Magic Kingdom? Are you kidding me? Now, lucky for them, Magic Kingdom is already a huge park. It's already, of course, the most visited park, not only in Orlando, but in the world. So losing Big Thunder Mountain is not going to be like the end-all be-all for it, but like, it doesn't help your case. Let's just put it that way. It doesn't help your case. And I just don't understand the timing of it. Why not do it in 2024 when you knew attendance was, at best, going to be more or less flat? I just don't understand. Like, you knew you weren't impressing anybody in 2024, but in 2025, you're going to have more than likely more visitors at Magic Kingdom. So I just don't understand why you would want it closed then. It just doesn't make sense. And all of this, combined with the fact that Disney can't compete with Universal on price, convenience, or perks, and the fact that Disney's new additions that are supposed to dissuade people from staying at Universal and going to the existing Universal parks, and instead choosing Disney over them, even though it would cost them more. These are not mountain movers. These are not moves or additions that are going to make people change their minds about their decision making. These are not going to cause guests to spend hundreds, again, if they're in a family, if they're doing a long trip, potentially thousands more dollars to go to Disney instead of Universal. It just doesn't make sense. These are not moves that are going to do enough to incentivize guests to do that. So again, I mean, I think we talk about this rising tide. I do think there will be a few Disney parks that find their way on there. I think Magic Kingdom, guaranteed, is going to be on there. I mean, Magic Kingdom is just a winner in really any market, let's be honest. And there's a pretty good chance I think that EPCOT and or Hollywood Studios will be on there. One of the two. I don't think both will be on there, but probably one or the other will be on there. And again, guaranteed. Probably one that's actually going to be somehow falling in quicksand and will literally fall into the center of the earth and burn to ash is Animal Kingdom. That's going to be a complete disaster. That's guaranteed. And I do think that based on the strategy that Universal has, that at the very least, Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios Florida will not take a huge attendance hit, especially considering that they've already been bleeding guests leading up to 2025. So guests will be excited to revisit those parks, if anything, come 2025. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. I don't think that Disney's going to have a particularly good 2025. But in the long run, things might be a little bit different. Check out my video in the middle of the screen right now to hear more about that for Universal versus Disney in the long term. And I'll see y'all next time. Peace.